Make sure people are very happy with the LCS in all of its forms, not just a broadcast or a YouTube piece or casters or whatever. Make sure the entire product is resonating with fans.
What's up, everyone? This is the commissioner interview with the Commissioner Zimmerman.
We're still working. It was being workshopped a lot.
Yeah.
Is it just Mark now? MarkZ still?
Yeah. Remember, I was the one that said the MarkZ, but wait, no, I didn't say that. I said my brother, the MarkZ, and then you were like, no one's ever said brother like that before.
To me.
Yeah, and I was like, now I understand why.
The old school collegiate broadcast and academy and all that stuff.
Yeah. Congratulations on the move.
Thank you.
I think in a world where there's been a lot of like esports winner and esports ability from a individual perspective, I feel like that's really stable. Is something that I've definitely felt and moved around. Yeah. But how did this move come about?
So it's been a bit of a long time coming unofficially, and then happened officially actually quite quickly. Mm-hmm. It's something where when Jackie, stepped away in, May, towards the end of spring split.
Yeah.
That was something where I very quickly reached out to people, leaders saying, hey, what's going on in the future? I have ideas, and I was pretty forward with like some of the, the ideas that you've seen so far being things that we want to pursue. I think a lot of them are in some sense obvious, I think everyone's kicked these ideas around before, and it's more about like aligning and trying to put some weight behind them.
Yeah.
But it was something that in those conversations I was saying these would be things we would want to pursue, and then when the position officially opened, just applying and going from there. So what is that, 8 months, 6 months, something like that. So it's been a while, I guess, of pursuing it.
When did you find out?
That was, I think,
October, November?
Yeah, it was like right around Thanksgiving, I think. And then my official start date was 2 weeks before our Christmas break. So technically this is my 20th, 19th working day officially.
Yeah. What are your responsibilities? You said in the video that you're going to take some time to figure what that is, and now you've had 19 days to figure it out.
Okay, so that was a bit of a misfeed. I saw some people mention that. I was like, I don't mean like responsibilities. I know what the role entails. It's more about like, there's, Riot's a big company. There's a lot of different arms, exactly how they all relate to each other. Yeah. That's the sort of stuff I meant more like making sure like, I understand what a commissioner's supposed to be doing, but like how to, I think some people take it that way where it's like, does he even know what the job is? I'm like, yes, no, I just meant like, there's a lot to learn when you start at Riot as a whole, as well as in this position. And so at the same time, having these ideas that we want to pursue pretty aggressively to get in place in spring split, it's like I've had to focus on certain things and kind of ignore other things for now. Carlos is someone who I work very closely with, who was kind of acting as interim. And it's not like, okay, you started, here's all the responsibilities. He and I have continued to divvy those up while I focused on these things. And eventually I'll look further down the road and take everything on. But, it's not like I spent the first month learning, which I think is what you should honestly be doing in a job like this, but it was a unique situation.
Anytime you join a big, company as a front-facing person, you have to, figure that out. You being in the space helps expedite that, but not necessarily like, that doesn't mean you got everything down. So cut that. So what are the responsibilities of the commissioner? What are things that if they go well, we give you credit, or if they go bad, we know to point at you?
Bad is always point at me. Okay, so if there's something you don't like, that's my fault. The commissioner sits internally called product lead. I think, you could say that in the, that's what we say. And so there's a lot of teams that I work with to get ideas and visions and strategy across. And so, there's comms, there's engineering, there's broadcast, there's comp ops. There's a ton of the teams that I am working with to figure out how to get ideas across, listening to them because they're also all subject matters in their own subject matter experts in their own fields and stuff. So it's, a lot of times I just say, hey, what about this? And then they say, this is how you would do it and this sort of stuff. So it's a lot of collaboration. It's a lot of keeping things in flight and track of all the steps so that you need to take. And so you are, at the end of the day, somewhat responsible for the LCS as a commissioner or of your region and league. So that's a lot of what it is meetings, syncing up with people, pitching ideas, working with them. I think a lot of the ideas that we were able to get done this time only happened because we already had incredible teams at place. And so you can probably imagine as an engineer to hear like, by the way, pre-recording draft, figure it out, that's a big ask. And it's stuff that's only possible because our teams are actually pretty crazy good.
Sure. When it comes to, I think, a lot of the things getting stopped in the past for the LCS, it was always a budgetary issue, right? It always felt like, hey, it's monetary when it comes to budgets and when it comes to what we can or can't spend on. How much of that falls upon your lap in terms of what we spend on and how much we have to spend?
A little bit of both, but not fully both. It's like this kind of ebb and flow where you're working with the teams, and there's areas where you can influence the decisions being made, and some of it comes from above, some of it's the teams. You're trusting what they think is valuable, that kind of stuff. So I don't think I could be like, let's double our budget next year. Like that's definitely not something I could do. But working within the scope of as an entire ecosystem, what we are able to work with. So figuring out, hey, with my slice of the pie, what can we do kind of thing, and those sorts of decisions that you get.
Sure. We've obviously made a lot of changes here in the LCS this year for 2024. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that it feels like the LCS is starting to fall behind in identity with both LPL, LCK, and LEC. So what were some of the things that we saw that you felt like haven't, I guess, grown with the LCS that needed to be addressed?
Yeah, I think everyone likes to say we're the most entertaining league, or that entertainment is the goal. But entertainment can be a lot of things. It can be comedic, it can be competitive, it can just be educational. Yep. And so I think in the short term, we've definitely leaned into education with all the changes that were coming in season 14. It's a massive, just change for League of Legends. Playing on live patch will put us first, and we'll have a lot of content kind of oriented around that.
Yeah.
We're definitely fan focused, I think, is a big push this year, which is coming across with our comms, as well as these sorts of changes are things that fans, I think, have always been like, start the next game. It's like, okay, let's seriously tackle that problem and reevaluate, from the beginning, like what can we do based off where we are now, that kind of stuff. And I think continuing to innovate will be what North America wants to do. We are in a unique position where Global's right there, and a lot of these changes are only possible because we went knocking on Global's door and was able to work very quickly with them to get them greenlit and that sort of stuff. And I think I don't want to keep foot on the gas fully all the way forever.
Sure.
So we'll probably ease off a little bit with these changes and just evaluate how they're going. But stay nimble and fluid.
One of the big changes is that there's only 8 teams compared to 10 teams that were part of the franchise league. What does that say, the fact that there were 2 teams that decided to step away and take the stipend that was offered or whatever? I know that maybe you didn't have anything to do with that part, but what does that say about the health of the league, and how do you take that moving forward?
I think it's been a bit of a reevaluation for a lot of people in esports. Everyone, the term esports winter, and I think a lot of orgs who initially stepped into the space took a look at it and made a decision. I don't think that reflects Riot's philosophy. I think they are very long-term focused on esports. John Needham's State of Sport, is like talking about generational kind of investment into this. So, I think there's people who get in at certain times and then change their mind, and that's going to happen. I don't think we're too stressed about that fact. Of course, you always want to be making bank and like feeling great, and that's not always going to be the case. There's going to be ebbs and flows, and obviously it's been a bit of a dip in the last year, but I don't think long-term concerns exist for us. And if partners don't feel like they want to be in the space, I don't think we want to trap them here or anything like that and end up with people that aren't really contributing. So I think that's part of the reasoning behind that change.
Is there a world where we get back to 10 teams, both as 2 franchise slots or promotion relegation slots, which is something that has been very popularly talked about?
Yeah, we're still flexible on this. This is when I get to give you the
okay.
Yeah, we're evaluating the changes. Nothing's off the table, but we're not ready to commit yet. I think there's a reason you get those answers a lot, because it's true. We have 8 teams for now. We are working with that plan, but there's always the potential for, if there's a sudden massive increase in interest in the LCS and we feel like the ecosystem can support it, maybe we'll explore expanding again or something like that. But for now, there's no plans.
One of the teams that moved on was Evil Geniuses. Beforehand, there was an internal investigation about all the things that happened with the player health and how it was ran. Can you give us an update on what the findings were, and what are pathways forward to finding an answer?
Legally, we're not ready to comment on anything like that.
Is there intent to eventually? Do you know if that's it?
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're asking, and it's not something that we're going to comment on. I think if a message ever does come out, it'll come out, but we don't want to set any sort of expectations or anything like that.
Great. So the information's already out there that you can get, because Riot's not giving any for now, legally.
Yeah. I know it's not necessarily the most satisfying, but there's other in certain situations, there's even though we want to be fan first, there's times where there's more important things.
Yeah. Let's move forward to how things work logistically with Valorant also being there at the same time. How is the studio going to be divided up? How is the day going to be divided up? Like, is that something that is going to be like a joint ticket thing, or how does that work? And what is your, I guess, tie-in with the Valorant side of things?
So this is something that is actively still being fully explored. We have a solution for how we would divide up the studio. We're not doing a remote broadcast. Some people notice that, there's no tickets available for week 5.
Yep.
We're not doing a joint ticket thing this time around or anything like that. We just won't have a live studio audience. As you know, there's a bunch of sound stages here, and so we're going to have a cool look, I think, that we're still designing and fully locking everything in before we announce what that's going to look like. Unfortunately, no audience for just week 5. That's part of why the break thing exists, and stuff is there are a lot of variables at play. It's not just us compromising Valorant. Obviously, if moved back 2 hours, LEC moved forward 2 hours, so us moving back onto weekends was something where we have to collaborate with our entire ecosystem, not just in League of Legends, but Valorant. So There's a lot of moving parts, even a little bit still as like we are churning through the changes and making sure we're locking everything in before we commit. And then there's like some little fire that you miss. You don't want to speak too soon. So trying to avoid putting our foot in our mouths.
You've spent most of your career cultivating the analyst desk as like your home. It's now, and it went through iterations, the analyst desk, the analyst lounge. Mm-hmm. Now it's the content place. What is it called, and how does that change supposed to feel for fans?
I think we're still going to call it the lounge, as far as I know. I don't think we're going to like suddenly bring a desk back and everyone's in suits for pregame or post-show and pre-show and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I think we'll keep mostly the same look and feel there for those portions of the show. And in the middle, you kind of saw that we were already starting to record more content anyways. Mm-hmm. I think a number of those pieces of content did pretty well, and people seem to enjoy them. And there was always a limitation of, okay, well, the game's ending, it's coming back to us. You have to really structure your shoots that they can't go too long. You don't want to go with you have to have winners on if you're live, because fans have a certain reaction if there's losers and you don't give the winners their shine. There's that kind of feel.
Yep.
The content itself can only be 5 to 6 minutes long if it's live. There's just like a number of headaches that kind of come around planning content like that. And so the look this time was, if we just said, during this time, that's a studio content creation space, we think we can make better content during that time period that will then go to the platform appropriate places, as opposed to, I loved catching up with Double Lift, filming that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Should you stick that in a live sports broadcast? It's kind of niche content. I think those are fair questions to ask. And so, I think those are the sorts of things that we're looking at as we continue to evolve the LCS.
So then is there, from what it sounds like, there isn't going to be an immediate kind of breakdown of what we just saw most of the time?
Most of the time, no. I think the general plan would be to have some sort of post-game interview. We want to still give games coverage. So I think the default will probably be more of an interview, which is what we kind of teased with the whole voting on who we interview thing. So that way you still get coverage of the game that ends. I think for really hype games, we want to maintain some level of flexibility. If you get some crazy base race, having the ability to still kind of break that down. We still will see the analysts sometimes doing stuff like that. Or we'll have a piece of content recorded that will air. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be one of those 3 kinds of looks that you'll usually see after a game.
A lot of this has been focused on the fan experience. What can you talk about potential events for this year, right? Last year we had it in Raleigh, mm-hmm. and in where do we go after? New Jersey,
yeah.
Right? We did the East Coast. Do we have ideas on that yet, or any leaks on that?
We have ideas. We're not ready to share them quite yet. You'll see an update hopefully in the coming weeks about spring pretty quickly, and then summer shortly following that. We don't want to always have I think this is a unique period where we are kind of going very quickly with hey, here's a change that's coming right now, and I think we don't want to stay in that cadence, and so we'll try and be better in the future about getting information out faster.
And then lastly, just because this needs to be a 30-minute interview, not a 12.
I know, dude. I'm sorry.
It's okay. What does success look like for you for the LCS in 2024?
Yeah, I think obviously viewership is the thing that the community talks a lot about, and it's something that obviously we care about too.
Yeah.
In terms of a hard number, you have projections, whatever. The most important thing is trends and getting that positive again. I think having fans enjoy the entire product. Broadcast sentiment was decent last year, but there's other things in the entire ecosystem that the sentiment was not as good on. And I think treating the entire sentiment as a goal, make sure people are very happy with the LCS in all of its forms, not just a broadcast or a YouTube piece or casters or whatever, make sure the entire product is resonating with fans.
All right, Mark, thank you very much for your time, man. Appreciate it. It's been great to see your growth, and good luck with the new job.
Yeah, thanks for the interview, and hopefully we get more time in the future.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, catch you later.
Thanks, man.